Thank you guys for coming. Today we're going to do a film review of Catch Me If You Can. If you could show the audience members, please. And then obviously the person holding the camera as well. So, how many of you, by a show of hands, have seen the movie? Okay. Well, hopefully throughout this you'll be able to figure out what it's about by the end of the presentation. So, do you ever wish that you could swap lives with somebody? That's exactly what Frank Abagnale Jr. did in Catch Me If You Can. This movie is about a troubled teen who, learning from his father, then began a life of fraud by initially starting as a Pan Am pilot and then went to check fraud and became a lawyer and a doctor as well. So what I'm going to show you here is first a clip of Frank at school, and this is where he starts exercising his abilities to do fraud. Hold 1 second. That should be going now. I'll get out of the way.
Excuse me.
Oh, yeah?
You know room 17 French's?
Yeah.
You selling encyclopedias? It looks like a substitute teacher.
Quiet down, people! My name is Mr. Abagnale. That's Abagnale, not Abagnale, not Abagnale, but Abagnale. Now, somebody please tell me where you left off in your textbooks? Excuse me, people, if I need to ask again, I'm going to write up the entire class. Take your seats!
Chapter 7.
Will you please open your textbooks to chapter 8, and we'll get started? Excuse me, what's your name?
Brad?
Right, why don't you get up here in front of the class here and read conversation number 5.
Les Français son généralement dans pays Q, rescue, tout le monde set impression.
They sent for me. They said they needed a sub for Roberta. I came all the way from Dixon.
I always sub for Roberta. Excuse me, why aren't you reading?
I'll never come back to Bellamy Jefferson again. You tell them not to call me. What do you think? It's easy for a woman my age and all the money that it costs to travel like that. They don't get...
Okay. So that was Frank going to his first class in a new neighborhood after his family lost everything to the IRS. He was used to wearing the outfit you saw him in, which is why he passed as a substitute teacher in the first place. So what he learned from his father, from who actually was involved in embezzlement and tax fraud, was how to manipulate people and become a master of identity management. So identity management is the styles of communications and terms that we use in order to define ourselves to other people, to blend in with a higher nose crowd or a lesser crowd, depending on how we view that situation. So you would present yourself differently at work than you would, say, at home. So a couple examples of how Frank is able to do this is the key person that is chasing Frank the entire movie is Carl Hanratty, who's the FBI agent played by Tom Hanks. And there's actually a scene where Frank is caught by Carl in a hotel, but then pretends to be a CIA agent, hands him a thick wallet, and pretends that's his badge. And then when Carl looks at it later, after Frank's already escaped, he realizes it's full of actual wrappers and nothing of substance. There's also there's a scene towards the beginning of the film where he starts doing fraud Pan Am checks because he sees an ad for pilots, sees how recognized and how much money they make. So he actually takes a toy plane, he puts it in a hot tub, gets the sticker to come off, and starts putting them on checks to make the seal look official. And so once he gets this to work the first time, when he identifies what paper and ink to use, he then puts about 30 planes into the tub the next time, and then he's able to do that again and again. So the second term that I'm going to go over is presenting self, which is part of identity management. Presenting self is who you portray yourself to be. And that is how you would, that's how Frank goes through his fraud in these different occupations. He finds someone weak on the inside that he can flirt with or try to get in and learn their jargon. And then after that, he's able to pretend to be that person. So there's a scene in the beginning of the movie where he is actually in prison and he's pretending to be sick in order to have Carl let him out. And Carl actually falls for this in the beginning. They let him out and he tries to escape. He's unsuccessful, but it shows that he has the ability to even fool Carl. And then perceived self is the third term and the last term that I'm going to go over. And that is how Frank actually views himself. When all the facade and the masks are gone, what does he really think he is? And towards the end of the film, you see how it contrasts from the beginning, where he sees his family as this high status. All that falls away because of the IRS investigation. And his whole life after that, the reason he gets into fraud is to try to get back to where he thought he should be. And he actually goes through and works with Carl towards the end, and this is a true story, that he actually works with the FBI as an informant now and trying to detect other check frauds. So, in conclusion, Frank is a master of communication and identity management. He's able to clearly fool even FBI agents, other people who know the jargon and know the terms of these different occupations, but he's still able to get through. So with that, if you have any questions, now would be the time. If you had any on the film or on the presentation.
Sounds like a good movie.
It's a very good film. I've actually not seen it before this, but
What do you think Frank's greatest asset was in aiding him in the masquerade that he portrayed through the whole movie?
his ability to find the people, like there's a scene where he wants to become a doctor after he finds out that they're starting to catch on that he's not really a pilot. So he thinks to switch occupations, and he's at a hospital, and he's actually starts flirting with a nurse who just got yelled at by a doctor. And during that point, he starts asking questions. What would a doctor call this? How do these charts look? He starts asking all the questions of things that if he were a doctor, what would he be asked? What would he need to know? And he, in each of these positions, he finds when he was a Pan Am pilot, or a fake Pan Am pilot, he actually, while he's cashing in his fraud checks, he flirts with a bank teller who then teaches him how checks work, what the numbers mean and everything. So he can then try to fool people by knowing the terms and knowing what he needs to do. So I would say that would be his strongest asset.
So he checks for the weakest link
Exactly.
in each profession he goes to, does his research.
Most of the time it's flirting. He finds a girl, he flirts with them, looks for someone of low self-esteem, builds them up with compliments, and then he extracts as much information
And uses
as he can.
them.
Yep. But the plot at the end of the movie is he actually falls in love with one of them, and that is his downfall.
At least it turned out where he helped at the end.
Yep. Yeah, he did turn a leaf, and now he is actually still working. These are obviously fake names, but he still does work for the FBI.
So this is based on a true story.
Yep, and he's actually good friends with the FBI agent that caught him. He saw him as a father figure because his father was a crook of sorts. So that's where his perceived self is identifying with someone who can actually be that dad for him and show him how to live a respectable life through honest means. He's never been taught that before.
This is
I
why
would like
it's so
to watch
important to
it.
have a great role model. You know?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think that's the end. Thank you guys for coming, and we're all set. Thank you.
You're welcome.